All right, welcome back to the You Can't Fool You podcast, where old school values have a modern edge. And before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, the Vertigo Center, helping you find balance when the world won't stop spinning. So if you or a loved one are suffering with balance, dizziness, or vertigo, please contact the vertigocenter.com today to take your first steps towards steady living. So we have Aoife Leggett as our guest today. And we were just talking before we jumped on, those Gaelic names are tough to pronounce.
Yeah, and I have many international clients, so it's a conversation starter anyway.
Yeah. So what does Aoife mean in Gaelic?
And so Aoife actually means warrior princess, which my mum I think would always say was a well suited name. But yeah, it'd be common enough name in Ireland, but yeah, challenging one to spell. And pronounce, I suppose. I went to a French junior school. So I spent my childhood just being called Awaf or yeah, Aoife or whatever. So I never take it too personally if people get it wrong. Yeah, it's a nice name, I suppose, because it speaks to our heritage. We don't actually, the language is kind of, I wouldn't say dead in Ireland, but like only a small percentage of the population speak it. So like there's Gael-talked areas within Ireland and they would speak fluent Irish all the time. But I learned it in school. I wouldn't know how to speak it, and a limited number of people do. So keeping it alive through names is nice. And actually, it's kind of had a modern resurgence recently, Irish, which is nice as well. People are making more of an effort to learn it and speak it.
Oh, really? Is that so?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few kind of Gaelic influencers that have kind of made it cool, and then there's like a bit of a
Yeah.
trend and stuff. It's a very, it's quite a challenging language. It's much more complicated than, say, French or Spanish. And then the level that they teach it in school is quite advanced. It's probably too advanced. So then people kind of are like, oh, I can't keep up with that. But yeah, like I said, it's having a resurgence, which is lovely.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. It'd be cool to learn how to speak Gaelic, but that's probably not going to happen in my lifetime.
Maybe a retirement project.
Yeah, right, right. If I can pick it up that fast, probably not. But it would be cool to know how to speak. I think it is a beautiful language.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so let's get into it. Tell who are you? Tell everybody your story. Where did you start? How did you get to what you're doing now?
Yeah. So I'll kind of start where I am now. Aoife is my name, obviously, as we just discussed. So I'm a high performance or mindset and performance coach, and I work predominantly with the equestrian space riders. I do also work with other athletes and then some business people as well. But a lot of the riders that I would work with also have businesses and they have to run them alongside each other. So that's what I do right now. I work with clients from all over the world, Australia, the UK, America. And I suppose their draw towards me is that I was in the industry, that I understand where they're coming from, what it's like to work with horses and compete and not just have to have yourself, operating at 100%, but also looking to have a live animal there. And the whole support system that goes into horses is almost the best kind of similar sport that I've seen is F1. And if you've seen it on Drive to Survive on Netflix, like the background team is so massive. It's the same in horses. Like if the farrier nails the shoe on at the wrong angle and bruises your horse, like that's, when you're going to the Olympics, that's your Olympic dream over. Same way as if one of those guys doesn't screw the bolt into the tire properly, it's going to fall off. So a lot of moving parts there. And then how I got to where I am now, the journey has been kind of long and winding, but when I look back, you see where all the pieces now link together, which is nice, but started off never like rode much when I was younger, but I always kind of had a passion for animals and horses. I always wanted my parents to stop the car so I could get out and pet one if it was on the side of the road, or my cousin had a horse and I was really interested in going with her to all the competitions, and eventually then worked my way through like riding schools, which I think was a good education to get as a young person to work for your coaching basically, and taught us like a high level of output, standards and camaraderie, working with other kids and stuff like that, and having to deal with the politics. So that's where I started, and then I got to buy my own horse when I was about 16 and tried to do some of the junior team stuff. So I was on like the squad, which would be the kind of longer list of people looking to go to the Europeans. Did some of that, and then I went off to college. Didn't really know what I wanted to do in college, but I was kind of interested in people and how they operate. So I went to do social science, and sociology was kind of what drew me to that, which at the time I was like, this is kind of random. I don't really know how I'm going to use this, but now I'm like, yeah, that's kind of followed me all the way through my life, is my passion for people and seeing how they tick and how they work. So through college, I kept riding, and then I was helping out, working at some stables. A friend of mine was competing at quite a high level, and she had some horses that were going out training in Germany, so I had the opportunity to go there. And then after college, I sort of almost by accident started working full time in a stables that sold a lot of horses internationally. I really loved the work. I think at that time I knew that that probably wasn't what I was going to do, as a career long term, but I was learning and growing and developing. So I was like, I'll stay here. I'm enjoying it for now. So I worked there for a good while, and they started expanding a lot. I worked with a number of different riders and met a lot of people from the US especially would come to Ireland to buy horses. So I did that, and then when I hit kind of a crossroads again, I didn't know what to do with myself. So I decided to go and follow a friend of mine was going to Whistler to do a ski season. So I went off to Whistler to do a ski season, and while I was there, I broke my leg and tore all the ligaments in my knee, which was at the time a horrendous and painful thing to do, but taught me so much about rehab, the mindset around injuries, um, how challenging it is to go from being somebody really active to then having to ask people to help you to carry like a plate over to the dinner table and not be able just to get up and go. And then when I came back from Canada after my surgery, I went back to working in horses for a while, kind of with older horses. We had a team of horses, and two of them were qualified for the Olympics, and they were interesting because it's like basically looking after high-end athletes. I always say the footballers, that go to those clubs and get all the like PRP
Yeah.
injections and medicals. I'm like, the horses are the same. They're getting the same stuff. So I did that for a while, and then went to work in corporate. I kind of again reached a place where I was like, I don't see myself here in 5 years' time. I'm not growing, I'm not developing. Went to corporate for a little bit, and then just really missed working with individuals like on a one-to-one basis, or within a team, and really seeing people grow and develop. So that's when I took the leap and went and trained as a coach. I studied sport and performance psychology. I studied breath work. I studied performance nutrition, and I qualified as a PT. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of stabbing around in the dark, but all of those things now lead into what I do now, which is mindset and performance coaching for athletes and business people. And I offer, I think, a quite a holistic program for my clients. And yeah, I'm delighted to say that finally I'm like, yes, this is where I'm meant to be. This is feels aligned. I love my work. And yeah, that's me basically in a nutshell.
So that's a journey for sure. That's a journey. What when you reflect back on that as you're telling that story, what comes up for you?
I think moments of despair, feeling like you're at a dead end, feeling almost like a failure, being like all the people around me seem to have it figured out, and I'm just still not sure what's for me. And then the flip side of now me having my business up and running, going really well, and just being so happy that I did take that plunge. It was probably 4 years ago now, maybe. Like, it was scary. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I kind of knew, and I'm not a good liar. I'm bad at faking it. So I
Yeah.
was like, I can't fake, or I can't stay in this job. I was like, my soul feels like it's being crushed every day. So yeah, I think those low points always eventually lead you to getting to somewhere where you feel better. But I definitely didn't want to live a life that wasn't aligned or filled with passion and purpose. And now I do. So that's kind of those moments of despair kind of stand out. And then I remember one moment in particular, I was standing in the yard down in Cork, and I must have been listening to a podcast or something, and I just remember turning around and being like, this isn't what I had envisioned for my life. While from the outside to other people, they were like, oh, it's good place to work, you're well respected, all that kind of stuff. And sort of removing that victim mentality and being like, well, no one's coming to save you, Aoife. You need to decide what you want to do. So I think that was a big turning point for me. And like I said, I didn't have all the answers, but I knew I needed to do something to try and get them.
Yeah. I found similarly like on my journey, sometimes you do things because you have to do them, whether it's like you're starting this business and maybe you're not it's not you don't have it it's not busy enough for you to sustain you full time, so you got to do something else. And then you start to get into something else that's either going to support you and give you some stability. And then you get to a point where it's like you sprint a little bit and you like get back on your feet or whatever it might be. And then you're like, man, I can't do this anymore. Like, all right, I feel I'm recharged again. Like, screw it. I'm going to go back and give this thing a shot again. And then, you build a little more. And then maybe again, it's like, oh shit, I'm at kind of like crossroads or I'm stuck. Like, I need to pivot real quick. And then you sprint again. And then you're like, this isn't it. Right. And then you make that decision again, and that can catch up with you as like, oh man, what the hell, like what am I doing? And but you do have to be super resilient in that, and that can be really hard. How did you get yourself through those moments to be like not kind of just like pack it in?
I think I did always have belief in myself that like I can do stuff to a high standard. And I just always remember being like, I'm working really hard for somebody else's dream. It's not my dream, you know? So I think that belief that I could do something for myself. And although like a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should start your own business," I said, "Oh no, I'm not brave enough for that." I think at that moment I just didn't know
Mm,
what it was, so I didn't feel brave enough. I think just trusting. I had a great support system. Like my best friend has always been amazing in terms of being like, you'll figure it out. My parents have been really good. My partner now has always been really supportive. So I think the right support system around you of people that aren't just like, oh, just stick that job, and it'll be fine. Just keep your head down. I think maybe my mum's always said I've kind of always taken my own path and done my own thing a little bit. So she probably kind of knew. And they always said, "Oh, we just want you to be happy." Obviously I wanted to do well for them as well, but I had no pressure from them like some people might have from their parents saying, you should
right.
go in this company. So I think that allowed me to, try different things. And definitely like I think the path is never linear. Like you have to do stuff to kind of keep you afloat. And a lot of those kind of pivotal moments, I worked with a coach, and that really is what kind of helped me. Like when I wanted to leave corporate, when I did leave corporate, I was kind of a little bit despaired. I was doing some job interviews, and I remember being like, in the job interviews, you're going to end up in the same place again, Aoife, where you're in a role and you're doing well because you like to perform well, you're competitive, you want to execute things, but you're not going to be happy deep down. So I remember being like, don't do it again. It's not going to be the right thing to do. So a friend of
Mm,
mine, Richard, he put me in touch with a coach that he had, actually worked alongside, and she'd gone to train as a coach. And she really helped me to just like see what options are out there and start to be like, right, what would the first step be? Because it kind of felt like paralyzing because there was so much
yeah,
choice, so much there. So she was great. Her name's Ariana. And actually, full circle moment. I went on to do my coaching course on her. Like she has a coaching school, and now I lecture at that coaching school because
oh,
we've
that's
ended up
great.
working really closely together. And then I now teach new coaches how to coach. So she was really helpful. And then I a few maybe it was probably a year or so ago worked with another coach in terms of just helping me improve my offer, improve my messaging and stuff. And she really helped me to develop a product and a program that works for my clients and that I believe in. So yeah, a lot of times as well, it has been finding the right person and taking the leap and investing in that, and that's paid off dividends.
Yeah. Have you found it easy to get distracted, like trying to, I guess, pivot and try too many things is instead of just like focusing on your one core thing that you do?
Yeah, I think I kind of always sort of had a balance. Like at the start, I was doing a bit more like in-person physical coaching, and that I knew that was kind of just like something that I would do until I got my own like one-to-one coaching more stable. I think my kind of streams were, some corporate work, like one-to-one client coaching, and that like physical training. At the moment it's kind of the same really. I do some corporate work, I do a little bit of in person. I actually teach reformer Pilates now because for me I need to be with people in person as well as online, but my main business kind of uh income stream but also passion is coaching people one to one. So I'm
Mm,
able to have those kind of core pillars, spread them across my week. My priority will always be my one-to-one clients, but I do, maybe a couple of corporate gigs each quarter, and that's nice. Again, I suppose I found that I need the mix because my clients are international. I'm talking to them through a laptop. I need to
Yeah.
also be in person with people and share that kind of energy exchange. So I've gotten to a place now where I'm happy with that. But definitely you can kind of get distracted or feel like, one thing that you were doing before might not work anymore. So like, I got into some corporate jobs through a certain stream, and now I feel like that stream has maybe run dry. I need to have a
Yeah.
different get into those. But um yeah, I think just having those kind of pillars has helped me to stay kind of stable in terms of what I'm doing. And then like you probably know yourself, and I have lots of clients that are their own boss. I'm like, it's the hardest thing ever to be your own boss because you want to be flexible because that's why you work for yourself, but also you need to be accountable and have a bit of a schedule. So I am pretty regimented in terms of my schedule. I have certain like outputs that I need to do each week, and then my clients. So I try to be regimented so that I can be flexible on, maybe a Friday, or if my parents need help or something like that. So a bit of a mixture I find works for me.
Yeah. I feel that's definitely the hardest part is like who's holding you accountable, really.
Yeah.
It's like you have to hold yourself accountable. And I don't think that's just for like someone who's running their own business. I kind of think that like it's good to have other people and the support system hold you accountable, but like at the end of the day, really, you do need to hold yourself accountable more than anybody else. I really don't think you're going to succeed if it's like you can't hold your own self accountable. Like you have to hold yourself to the highest standard and hold yourself to be able to do like be regimented and get the things done. If you're always looking for somebody else to hold, like I'm not going to be able to do this, like this is why I need you here because otherwise I'm not going to do it. It's like, well, you're probably going to have a tough time.
Yeah, yeah. Like even we did a gym like session on Monday, but a class, and like part of it was running 5 laps in between doing two kind of, an erg and an exercise. And like I always go right to the edge of those laps, and the amount of people that cut the corner, I'm like, you're just cheating yourself. Like just go all the way. And I'm like, it's such a small thing, but that's obviously how my brain is wired. I'm like, don't cut the
Yeah.
corner. Like how you do one thing is how you do everything. Um, yeah, and like my partner slags me because I'm always like, no, no, we're in the gym at 6 a.m. And he's like, well, if it's 10 past or if it's quarter past, I'm like, no, 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 I need to be there at
No.
6.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, you have integrity and your, like honor and your character.
Yeah.
I think that's important because you have a code that you hold yourself to live by.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think, well, my dad would be pretty regimented. His dad was in the army, and all his like ties are all lined up really neatly. But I think the horses as well teach you like hard work and like standards, and it's a pretty challenging industry to be in. So I'm kind of glad that's where I got my kind of school of life, is what my old boss said. He's like, don't worry about college. I'm gonna give you the school of life here. You're
Yeah.
like, oh God.
I mean, I think those are great qualities to have. Like the alternative would be like not having them. And would you want that?
Yeah, no, definitely
Would
not.
you want to be like that? Probably not.
I mean, some people might say I could probably be a bit more flexible, but I'm like, I'm happy to be on this side rather than the other side.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean that's funny. Was was there a moment that you were finally like, all right, like I'm getting some momentum here, like this is it. And what did that feel like? Was there a specific moment or was there like a client that you got or was it just could have been, you're working out and you get this thought and this feeling, like was there a specific moment in time where you're like, I got the path now. Like this is it.
Yeah, I think a few times I've definitely had that. Like one time was earlier on when I was working with a client, but I was doing also some kind of, freelance work for other people on the side. And just this one client, like I came off the call like buzz, and I remember texting my friend being like, this is really what I need to be doing all of the time. Like I've not that I find it easy because coaching I always find is challenging, especially when you're teaching young coaches. You're like, it's not about your opinion, it's not about you. You're trying to facilitate
Hmm.
them to figure out what's the best thing for them to do. But I really felt like that call went really well. The client got what they needed. They were like inspired, motivated, had some actionable steps. I really felt like we had made a considerable difference in that 1 hour, and I was like, yeah, no, this is for me, like total adrenaline high from that. So that was definitely sort of a nice driver. And then I think when I started to really niche down in terms of working with the people in the equine world, I really felt like, well, I think they felt like I could understand them because I had been in their scenario. I'd been really nervous before going into, a big competition with loads of people watching, feeling like you can't control your nervous system and like
Hmm.
you're really freezing and you're not, riding the way you would at home. Um, yeah, I love to work with them because I'm like, these are the skills that I wish that I had. And I definitely see that they really appreciate it and it really makes a big impact on them. Like horses, whether it's a hobby or whether it's your job, they're quite, a commitment. So to help them to be able to make improvements that they maybe have been either stuck at or faltering at, or like a lot of people train loads, they have great horses, and the barrier really is their mind. Like they start to overthink, their body then starts to tense up, and they're not able to, perform the way they can. So, definitely work starting more to niche in with those. And then one particular client has been kind of like a really great client for me. She had lots of connections where she was from, and lots of people saw her improve, a lot, and then got my contacts from that. Yeah, definitely, probably that kind of niching down and focusing in on what I was good at helped me to be like, yeah, this is great. This is a proper business now. I can live happily here, and
Yeah.
not that it feels easy, but it doesn't feel like really,
It's not
really.
work, it's play, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Like it's play. It's not really work. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, I don't work, I just kind of screw around. You know, like I love what I do so much. It's work, but it doesn't feel like work to me. It's
Hmm.
and it sounds like you have the same sort of experience where when you think about trying to learn something, you're genuinely curious about learning. And I
Yeah,
think that's like a superpower right there because if you're genuinely curious, you're always going to want to learn and you're always going to want to pursue that. If that's like what you do for your career, that's great. Imagine being in a career where you weren't curious about learning more and trying to be better and ask questions, and it'd be really difficult to sustain that for a period of time. Like play the long game with that mindset of not being curious about what it is that you're doing or learning about would be very challenging, I think.
yeah, yeah. Like I remember when I was younger, when I was with the horse, I said to him, I'm like, I just want to be a sponge and soak up everything that I can about this. And I did soak up so much when I was a kid. I feel the same about, coaching and like CPD hours. I'm like, great, give them all to me if I can fit
Yeah.
them in. Like I'm
Yeah.
delighted to go on a course. And I think that was sort of a light bulb moment as well when I went on that first coaching course. I was like, this is so interesting. Like I want to study afterwards. It's not like college where some of the modules I was
You
like,
yeah.
I have to do an essay. I don't even know what they're talking about. But I definitely do see people that I know that are in jobs that you're like, I don't think it gives you a sense of purpose or passion. It's just
Mhm.
like the golden handcuffs, as they call it. Like a lot of people working for those big tech companies, they're like, oh, but the benefits are just so good. And like it's hard then once you've built yourself up and gotten to a level, and then if you start having a family or you have a mortgage, it's like, yeah, I understand the challenges. So that's why when I was like, I'm taking the plunge now, I don't have any dependents. I don't have a house that I need to pay off at the moment. I was like, it's now or never, Aoife. So I did that. But yeah, like you said, it's lovely to be in a space where you're like, yeah, I want to learn as much as I can so that I can have that knowledge myself, but also share it with the clients that I'm working with.
Yeah, so like if anybody's listening and they're at kind of that point, they feel stuck or they're like not sure they're in a job and they're not sure what it is, or they just are kind of, I think the best word is stuck. It's like, what's the thing that you're most curious about to learn like all the time?
Hmm.
That's probably a good place to start and just take that first step there. Another thing that is interesting, we talked about this a little bit last time that I found fascinating is that you have to be so right with yourself when working with horses because you're controlling like a beast, like an animal, like another animal that can sense whether you're right or not. Different than like F1 where that's a machine, you're in control. There's no other like spiritual energy, I would say, around that. And so if you're totally off with yourself and your mindset, or you're anxious and panicking, like a horse is probably going to feel that. And how
Yeah.
is that then going to affect performance, which either makes what you do even more important? Is like, how does you get that person right with themselves so that way they can show up and then be able to have that connection and synergy with another animal and get them to perform in like a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the depth is huge. Like horses are so sensitive, and it's not just like the rider, it's also like their environment that they're in. And like I said to you before, you have to try and read these animals that can't speak to you and like
Yeah.
what signs that they're giving off you. So like a lot of my friend who I used to work with, I call her like, a witch because she really has huge like senses, or she's very in tune, like intuitive. And I would have learned to have kind of been the same way. But yeah, like when you're nervous on a horse, like they feel it. And if they're nervous too and they're at a big show, it's like the two of you then are tense and holding your breath. And I always, if breath work is part of the program that I use with my clients, and luckily I've never had anyone say, I'm not trying that, because I can explain to them, I'm like, when you're riding a horse, like especially a particularly sensitive horse, if you take them somewhere and they're holding their breath, it's impossible for you to get the most out of them. Like
Mm-hmm.
their body, they're not concentrating
Yeah.
on you. They're like in that fight or flight mode, looking around and very rigid. So getting them to relax, take a breath and soften and then work with you is what you're always trying to do as a rider. And then what I try to say to them is, I'm like, you need to get yourself to a place where your internal state is calm enough that you can get the most from them. Um, it's definitely helpful. I think whether you're a rider or not, to have tools that help you to control your own internal state. I wish they would teach them in schools and stuff. Yeah, horses are have so many layers to them in terms of getting the most out of them. And I think that's what I've taken from working with them. Like I loved working with the older horses because you'd be like, right, what makes this horse really like tick? What's the best routine from them? Like some horses need to go out in the field first thing in the morning, have a little stretch around so their body is like getting a bit of movement. They might be anxious horses. That's nice for them as well to get a bit of air. Then they might come in and be exercised, and that's what works best for them. Other horses need to be ridden, first thing in the morning and then go out. Some horses are better with more work, some horses are better with less work. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's the same principles with a rider or an individual you have as a coach. It's like your personalized plan to help you to perform better and be better isn't going to be the same as my client that I was on to beforehand. So how do
Yeah.
we get what works for you?
What does it look like when a horse exercises?
What does it look like?
Yeah, it's not like they're gonna be doing squats and bench press.
Yeah, so a lot of stables would have horse walkers, so they'll go on like a walker that goes around in circles for them to kind of keep moving. They're quite like you want to have their joints and their bodies moving a good bit during the day. Like you don't want to leave them locked up in a stable or they're going to get stiff and stuff. You would ideally want them to get turnout in the field as well. So that would kind of be like, if you're going for a walk in the park, zen time, a little bit of relaxation, that's that. And then when you're exercising them, there's so many different things you can do. You could take them for a hack, which is like a walk around the forest trails and stuff. That's nice for them to be like relaxed, to be soft through their bodies. Sometimes it's easier to train young horses out in those kind of environments because they're, going to be a little bit more forward. You took them into the arena, so like a sand arena, you might be doing a bit of flat work dressage, so you're teaching them to like be supple through their back. Their heads will be in like a certain carriage. You're going to use three different paces. You want them to be really responsive off your aids. So like your legs and your hands, those top horses are going to be super responsive, a bit like the F1 cars, they're very responsive. And then you do things like poles, you do jumping, cross country, and like lots of them will have elements of gymnastics in them. So to help them to be more supple through their body, but
Mm,
also quicker off the ground. And you can set off different exercises with jumps that'll help them literally like jump, but like squat down nicely through their legs. So yeah, it's similar to like humans. You're building endurance through the muscles, you're building strength,
yeah,
just a different way of doing it.
yeah. Do horses train? So like like as athletes we would train speed. You would do sprint training. Do horses have like speed training? Like do they run like sprints or like how does that what does that look like?
Yeah, so it depends kind of what discipline you're in. So I work with some event riders. So event riders is almost like triathlon of horses. So you'll do dressage, which is all about control, precision, like keeping the horse calm, but like also having a nice bit of cadence to their paces. So that's kind of, they're not jumping anything, they're just on the flat. Then they'll go cross country, which all is all about, speed, adrenaline, power. That's like they're galloping fast and they're jumping out of that fast pace speed at big solid fences. So that has a lot of risk in it. Then like you'll be opening up a horse galloping at a big fence, and then you might have a combination coming up, so you have to pull them right back to like a collected canter and have them like with a shorter stride for a combination, and then you want to increase the speed again. So that's cross
Yeah.
country. In show jumping, you have the colored poles that you want to keep in the cups. So for an eventer, you would have days where you would gallop them. Days might be like just slower, kind of zone two, you might say, and then other days you might be galloping up a hill at a faster
Yeah.
pace.
Yeah.
Lots of people have their own kind of system, but they definitely would do kind of like sprint work as such.
Yeah. What's you know how so like if you're training a human, you can ask them like hey, how do you feel today? Be like, hey, my nervous system's tired, or like I'm super sore, and you have that communication back and forth. Like, how do you communicate with the horse, knowing like how they're feeling? Is it just like, do you observe them? Is it once you get connected, like you can spot those things pretty quickly? Like, how do you know if a horse is tired or sore? Like, what are you
Yeah,
looking for?
you basically watch them like a hawk. So like any of
Yeah.
those younger horses too, but especially the older ones, like, when we had the yard with lots of horses, every morning, me and the other guy who was kind of the head groom, we would check their legs, every
Mm.
day. So you run your hand down their tendon. Is there any swelling? Is there any heat through the legs, especially of those top horses? If there was, you would need to have a look at it straight away. See, is that like a ligament or a tendon injury? They would usually go on the walker first thing as well. So as you're leading them out, you're looking down at their legs. Are they balanced through all of their feet? Like, how do their bodies look? Some older horses are going to be stiff anyway in the morning, but like, is it out of character stiffness? And then you pop them onto maybe the walker out in the field. You keep an eye on them. How are they walking off? Is their head carriage as it would usually be? Like, if a horse is really stiff and sore, they'll kind of shift one foot to the other. You might see them if the
Mm.
ground is really hard galloped cross country, they're kind of shifting. If they're sore or feel off, they'll go off their food as well. So you'd always be watching really closely. Are they eating their haylage? Are they eating their hard food? Are they drinking? So basically just trying to get to know them and spot for any kind of changes. And then if once you get on, you're riding them, you can probably feel, okay, they
Oh
feel
yeah. Right.
left or to the right. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
whole system, but it starts with just kind of keeping an eye on them, and then when you get on them and ride them, you can feel. But yeah, that's part of the challenge.
Yeah. Definitely. Now, I think this might be fun to do. Say you have a client, and maybe we could use like me for an example. How do you know if someone's going to be good with the horse? Like, if you're say I came to you and was like, hey, I want to start riding. Like, what types of questions? What would you look for to be like, he might be okay. He like might be good on a horse, or like be like, probably he's not ready to get on a horse.
Yeah, so the clients that come to me already ride, and they're usually like good amateurs or professionals. So they're already riding. I'm just helping them improve like their preparation, their mindset. But if you came to say when I was working on the ground in the yard and you wanted to ride, there's a variety of different things. Like, you need to be a good listener, a good learner. Like, I was actually only speaking to my friend today. She went to her former Pilates class and she's a really good rider. And I remember before being like, she can't really do a sit up, but like she has a seriously strong core. But like her upper core and her ribs are super ripped. And then maybe her lower core wasn't as strong. So you do need to be supple probably as a rider. Yeah. I haven't seen a beginner now for a long time. Uh, I definitely have had friends that are like, I could ride a horse, that's easy. And like, say, my sister's husband, I put him up and I actually was doubled over laughing at him because he was just like getting bounced out of the saddle and falling.
Really?
So it's a little bit one of those sports that looks easy, but actually is seriously challenging. Like, to be able to sit to the rhythm, especially if you have a big moving horse, like their stride kind of bounces you out. You have to find that balance center of gravity. And then like riding horses is like you're riding a wild animal. Like, some of them are extremely sharp. They hear something in the bush, they're like over here in like seconds. So it's all almost preempting that. But Yeah, I wouldn't know how to know if somebody was going to be good or not. Having a good eye, being good at like creating the right paces. This is getting a little technical now, but if you're going to jump a fence, you need to have a certain level of canter. A bit like if you're going to run a race, you want to have a strong, powerful stride.
Hmm.
You want to be able to create that as a rider. So yeah, I don't really know how to answer your question
Yeah.
because I haven't I haven't had that
Yeah.
in years and years.
That'd be interesting. I'd be interested in trying to ride a horse. Maybe I'm gonna look into
Yeah,
that
go and have a
and
go and
see.
let me know how you get on. You're gonna be like, oh,
Yeah.
it's so much harder than it looks.
Oh, I'm sure it's probably hard, but it's funny to think about. Like if you watch TV and like movies, and they have people riding horses all the time, it just kind of makes it appear that it's like just this thing. You just hop on a horse and you're ready.
Yeah,
You're ready to go. It's like it's not really like that.
yeah. A lot. I actually was watching. They have like Who Dares Wins or like an SAS sort of thing that they did with a guy from Ireland, and they took like Irish celebrities and they actually got on horses in the Amazon. But like what people tend to do out of like pure reaction is like to hunch down and like grip on, and that makes it like almost worse because then you're like kind of squeezed onto them. What you need to do is sit up, pop your heels down, and like use your position. But people like my friend used to always call it the limpet position. They just kind of like grip on. So
Hmm.
that's what tends to happen with beginners, and then you get popped out of the saddle. So
Right. Interesting. So I pulled up some of your Instagram posts, and I want to. There was a couple that stood out to me. This one right here. Your self-talk is shaping your writing. Your brain builds patterns based on what you repeat. So I'm a big fan of this. I do think your self-talk matters, and usually I'll talk about there's like you can either feed the good wolf or feed the bad wolf. And I'm big on self-talk because how you talk to yourself does matter because your inner self-talk then starts to sort of create your inner beliefs, and then that starts to sort of create a story, and then you can project that story out into the world. So the inner then does, or the outer does, sort of reflect the inner,
Mhm.
and likewise the inner does reflect the outer. So talk to me about that. What are you trying to say here? What messaging would you give around that? How does somebody work on their self-talk? I mean, if you ask most people, we talk to ourselves much, much more harshly and critically than we would to, say, a friend or somebody else.
Yeah. So as you said, your inner dialogue, your inner narrative starts to create, the feelings and emotions within you, and then they impact your actions. And then it can either become like a self-fulfilling prophecy, like, oh, I'm terrible at that,
Hmm.
I'm never able to do it. You feel scared, you feel nervous, your actions then are freezing or not doing something, and then you're like, oh well, I knew that was going to happen. I always said I was bad at it. And I had a client this morning who, when we talked about self-talk, like originally a few weeks ago, she was like, I don't really have any self-talk. I don't really notice it. And then since kind of opening that kind of awareness out, she's like, oh, now I'm starting to notice it, and it's pretty mean. Like it's like I was like, yeah, it sounds like a bully. And she's like, yeah, it's really like coming after me and being like, well, you better do well now because you messed that up. And I'm like, how can we create something that is pushing you
Yeah.
and empowering you, but from a good place? And in the same breath, I have another client who just for years has had this narrative that she can't do a certain thing, and it's completely shaped her whole life, her whole self-worth, her whole self-belief. And it's like you mightn't be the best at everything, but how can you play to your strengths, and how can you use that voice or that internal dialogue to help you to perform better? Maybe to push you a
Yeah.
little bit more, but from a place, as you said, like you would a friend or a teammate. Sometimes you might say to your friend, you need to get up and you need to go, but it's not like you're a piece of S, you need to get up and go. It's from a
Yeah.
place of love. So really big in terms of sport and performance psychology is one, becoming aware of it, like starting to
Yeah.
audit like that
Well, I
kind.
think that kind of goes back to what you first said. And I will say that I do think trying to change your narrative and your story is like one of the absolute hardest things that you can do. And it's really hard to do by yourself, and it takes a lot of practice. And I think that's one of the hardest things that you could possibly do. But going back to that first client you said, how many people, I feel like this is so true, be like, I don't really talk to myself that bad. Or like, I don't know if it's like the lack of awareness sort of around. It's like, nah, I don't have self talk. You know, it's a, I don't know if I wouldn't believe that. I'm going to call you out on your bullshit on that because we all talk to ourselves.
I think sometimes it's so automatic and
Yeah.
so kind of subconscious sometimes that people think they do genuinely think that. Like she genuinely was like, maybe a little bit if I mess up, I might. But then when she started to uncover it, so planting the seed and then allowing people to go away. And like I still know like it's a constant not challenge, but it's a constant body of work is to try and change that narrative to be more positive. Like I definitely notice myself every now and again be, talking to myself like I wouldn't a client or a friend. And you have to be like, is that actually helpful? Or is that making me feel worse about that situation? What
Yeah.
would make me feel better? And what can I do? It almost, if it is really negative, it almost paralyzes you in a sense of like not being able to change it versus if it's a bit more positive, pick out, right, what is logically and genuinely happening here without the kind of extra sort of negative kind of spin that your mind often puts on it. And can I take action and how can I change it so that it'll be better the next time? And that's much more empowering than just being like, that was terrible. I suck at that. I'm
Yeah.
never good.
Now, how do you get people to become more aware of it though? Is like what like you know if you want to get your legs stronger, like do squats or do lunge, like simple, right? How do you? What are you going to tell people to do to get that awareness? Because this is not like a tangible thing where you can like, all right, I can put this barbell on my back and squat down and come up, and now that weight feels easier. Like I know I'm getting stronger. This is like it's very intangible. Like you can't grab it and feel it. It's really
Mhm.
hard to like. How do you get people to be like, okay, because it's not something that's gonna change right away.
Yeah, yeah, and it's similar to like say breath work or meditation practice. It's like you're not going to feel like different day one, but a lot of the times just having conversation about it almost opens up that subconscious or that awareness. And then I might say to people, look, if you find that it might be helpful, why don't you write down in your like notebook or in your notes app some of these kind of thoughts or narratives that you start to notice
Yeah,
come up. And then when they start to do that, they're like, oh wow, there's way more than I thought, or this thought keeps coming up. So that's kind of the first step. It's like if you want to get your long legs stronger, the first step is like driving to the gym and going through the doors. So awareness is the first step. And then writing them down or just taking note of them like within your in your own like mind. And then it's like well, I have several different exercises that I'll use with clients, but like limiting beliefs exercise or like negative thought looping exercise that we kind of use to challenge those thoughts, see, where they're coming from, and maybe what the positive intention is behind them. Like a lot of the time, limiting beliefs are trying to keep us safe. So, you know, I had a limiting belief that I couldn't have my own business, but really that was probably because my ego wanted to keep me from perhaps embarrassment or perhaps
yeah,
failure. So I had to like understand, okay, this is me trying to keep myself safe, but I actually want to let go of that limiting belief and create a new, more empowering one that's going to allow me to step into what I really want to do. So that might be like, I want to follow my passion and purpose, regardless of whether I like fail or win at this. I'm going to give it a go, and then that starts to become like, okay, well, actually, it doesn't matter if I don't win, I'm going to learn otherwise. So you take yourself then out of that sense of being paralyzed by fear. But yeah, awareness through like I find that writing down or even sometimes having the conversation and cracking it open can be good. And then all clients are different again. Some clients doesn't take them that long to start to kind of rewrite the narrative. Some clients it takes a little bit longer and we'll try different exercises and along with the breath work that I use, we also use like visualization as well. So I'll send them personalized recordings each month and I try to include some things that we've maybe been working on or something that we've reframed just to kind of really help embed it in their mind and their subconscious as well.
I found that journaling has probably been the most powerful tool, better than any other tool that I've even better than probably talking to somebody.
Really?
Yeah, because like you're physically writing it, not using the notes app, like an actual book, like, here that like you just write, you know,
Yeah.
stuff, right? And like you write it and it has to be true. It can't be bullshit. And so then you write it and then you can go back and read it, right? And so when you go back and read it, like you are going to pick up some themes about how you talk to yourself. What do you say? And then you start to address it. It's like, hey, this is maybe I have been talking. Maybe I'm not really, you know, I've thought that maybe this was like me coaching myself to work harder, but it actually is just making me feel like shit about myself.
Hmm.
That's not, is that serving me? Maybe sometimes, but like maybe not. Maybe I don't need that type of talk because I don't need the type of talk of working harder or doing more because I'm already that person. Like I don't need any more of that. I've been that person my whole life, you know? And I think just writing that down brings that awareness around that. And it is a commitment. I think a lot of this stuff like you're talking about, it's not just like I'll do it when I want to. It doesn't really work like that. It's not like it's work. It's a lot of work
Yeah.
to do it, and it takes commitment. And the thing is, it's not like there's no end game to it. You never get to a point where it's like, oh, everything's all good. I don't need to work on anything anymore. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you do continue to chase goals with that negative self-talk, you'll achieve the goal, but you'll still be like not happy with the performance or there'll be something wrong, you know? And I do often meet people that have been really successful and have won classes and still they're like, I was driving out of that show and I really felt nothing. And I'm like, well, it's probably because, you know, you've trash talked yourself there. And then when you're there, it's like not what you thought it was going to be. So if you can change the journey to be more enjoyable, then the destination will be too. And the focus is less than on the outcome and more on, right, I want to be the best version of myself, whatever that looks like. But yeah, you're right. It's like I don't advocate for breath work and then not do breath work myself. Yeah, some mornings I don't fit in my schedule, but I'm trying to always be consistent with it every week, whether that's 5 or 10 minutes a day or if I have more time. But I think the beauty is like, you know, I put up a story on Monday. I was a little tired and grumpy when I woke up for no reason. I was like, I shouldn't be grumpy.
Yeah,
I have
it
everything
happens.
in my life, but I was like, right, what do I know is going to help me? I'm going to go to the gym anyway. That's, you know, regardless. I'm going to do an extra little bit of journaling. I might do a longer breath work. I'm going to, you know, I write 3 things that I'm grateful for every morning, but I was like, right, let's keep going. I wrote like a list of like 20 and then by the end of it I was like, yeah, and I was like, great, now I've got work, got my clients, but
Yeah,
feeling as though rather than being stuck in that headspace or that mentality, you've got an arsenal of things that you know work for you, you know, and obviously journaling has been really powerful for you, which is great. I think for everyone, they have to figure out their kind of recipe and use that.
yeah, and I also believe that we got to remember like we are humans. We're not gonna be perfect, and just because you do work on some of the stuff doesn't mean like you're not gonna wake up grumpy. You're not gonna do your breath work every day, like, and that's okay. Sometimes
Hmm.
we can also get into the run down the route of like too much self work and too much personal development. You're trying to like optimize to be perfect, and it's like, and that's also not good because then you got to remember like we are human, like we're gonna make mistakes. You're not gonna do everything perfectly. You're supposed to kind of be imperfect, right?
Yeah.
And too much self work, I don't think, I think can be harmful.
Yeah, definitely needs to be a balance there. And you don't want, you know, I always say, I think for me, those habits came in one by one, and that's why they stayed because I embedded them one at a time, kind of almost unknowingly. But if you go to somebody, a client, and you're like, right, in the morning, I want you to do this, 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 and this, they might be like, oh, that's a lot for me to do. So my approach would always be like, can we try one thing? Does that work for you? Can you find somewhere in your routine for it to fit in where it's manageable? You can see yourself doing it for a year to 3 years. Okay, that now is almost automatic. What is there something else that we could use or that you feel like would be helpful there? Like, yeah, I always just go to the gym in the morning as like a non-negotiable. Now it's not even a challenge for me. I'm there, you know, and similarly I try to read a few pages after my breakfast, do a bit of journaling, but I've kind of stacked them in incrementally throughout over time, you know, so that it wasn't just like one day I woke up and I had this wellness routine that took me an hour every morning, you know, which for me has worked in terms of longevity.
Yeah, and there's always, you go through different phases too. Like this phase that I'm in now, like I used to be such a morning routine guy. I'm not as much anymore, you know.
Hmm.
I used to sit and journal like every day. I don't journal as much anymore. I still do, but I'm not as, consistent. I still write a lot, but not journaling in the same way that I was. And I think you go through phases, right? And sometimes it serves you, and then but you have the important thing is you have the skill to do it now. And
Yes.
so whenever I need it, I'll go back to it, and it'll be there to support me if I feel like, all right, I need to get back into like a morning routine where, because I'm noticing X, Y, and Z, like I'm the type of person where, all right, I can pick back up and have my, victory hour morning, where you learn how to use the skill in certain ways. Maybe, all right, maybe you take that instead of in the morning routine. If it's not suitable, maybe you have it in the afternoon and you have time to, like, all right, now I can run this play
Hmm.
in the afternoon and get the same and still get the same result. But I think going through the phases of learning how to do those, it's almost like mastering the rules before you can break the rules. You have to learn how to master the basics before you can break those.
Yeah. Yeah. And I went to like a Wim Hof breathwork thing down in Clare, and the instructor there said the same thing. She was like, I used to try and do it every day. I felt like it was rushed. I was trying to like keep my kids out of the room. And she was like, then I decided, right, 3 times a week, I'm going to spend more time doing the breathwork practice, but it's going to be more enjoyable and it's less stress and
Mm-hmm.
actually more benefits. So you kind of have to, like I said, and like you said, figure out what works for you. And then, it might slip out of your routine. And then you might be like, right, I feel like I'm a bit of a funk, or I'm a bit stuck, or I feel like I need to clear my head. What are those things that I know help me? And then you can choose from them.
Yeah. Is there anything that we didn't talk about today that you feel like we should have talked about?
I don't think so. I think we talked a good bit about purpose and passion and alignment. I think we both are in agreement on that. And I would love to see more people feel like they are either working in a job that they love, or at least have, a hobby or a side project that really lights them up. I hate to see people almost sleepwalking through life,
Yeah.
and not tapping into that, because it feels so good when you do tap into it, and when you're working with your strengths, it, like we said, almost feels easier or more like flow state-ish. So yeah, I definitely think, like we talked about as well, you don't always have all the answers, but starting to explore that, whether that is just doing some journaling, talking to a coach, listening to some podcasts. But I think my big change came from sort of listening to podcast, like it came by
Yeah.
listening to podcasts and getting inspiration there, and like having that fill my ears, rather than just like dreary thoughts of I'm here and work again, or I'm sick of
Yeah.
this. Kind of uplifts you. So now I have a mixture of, I listen to some inspirational podcasts, and then I have some like comedy ones that I like for a bit more lightheartedness. But yeah, they kind of set me on the journey. So I would say if anyone does feel like stuck or in victim mentality, or like
Yeah.
they're not really sure what to do, that's a really amazing place to start. It's free, and then there's lots of great books and people online as well that you can go and listen to and get inspiration from. And yeah, I think it was a podcast one day I was like, I can actually do anything. And now I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
the mentality. I'm like, I might be scared. I might be like, oh, are you right at the edge here, Eva? But I'm like, ah, it's fine. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I'd love everyone to get there.
Yeah. All right. Let's go fire session real quick now. A top two podcasts you listen to.
Oh, the High Performance Podcast. And then there's
Okay.
actually an Irish one called the Entrepreneur Experiment, which is good because it does Irish people. And then I'll add in a little comedy one there is Young Hot Guys is three Irish comedians. They're very, very funny.
Okay. Great. Top two books.
Oh God. The Atomic Habits, and
Okay. Yep.
I liked Oprah's book actually. Oprah's book was good.
Okay.
I can't remember what its name is, but yeah, Oprah's book.
Top two songs to get your mind right.
I'm so bad at song names. I like a bit of Dolly Parton. We used to listen to the Dolly Parton
Okay.
a lot when we were going to shows. That's kind of like nostalgic for me. 9 to 5 is good, and I always belt that out. Who else do I like? Justin Bieber. Yeah, I don't really know. I'm not great on music. What I do is I like fixate on a song or an album,
Yeah.
and I'll listen to that on repeat, and then it's gone out of my head. So I do like a bit of Drake as well.
There you go. Iceman.
Yeah.
Take a listen to that. Awesome. Where can people find you to stay up to date with what you're doing?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm at Aoife Leggett Coach. Just check the spelling, because that Irish spelling will get them. Then my website is thecoaching.ie. I'm on there. And then my email is aoife360coaching.ie. So yeah, I try to provide some inspiration, education on my Instagram, and then there's actually loads of free resources on my website as well. I've got a resources and more tab, so there's a few exercises there, like Wheel of Life is a great, classic exercise. I've got one on, it's actually the year of the horse this year, so I have a little free resource on that, and some goal setting tips and different things like that. So again, there's free resources on my website, but loads of coaches have free resources on there. So if people do want to have a look at mine, they are there.
Great. We'll make sure to link that all in the show notes so that everybody who's listening can go follow you. Everybody go follow Aoife and support her.
Thanks a million. It was a lovely chat.
Yes, you too.